Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. The video you're about to watch are the highlights, the most relevant parts to yesterday's testimony from the LAPD officer who was called to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's penthouse after a fight. She testified that there was no injuries, there was no signs of any domestic violence at all, and she hammered that home. So I hope you appreciate these best bits. It's a very interesting take, and I will just say, if you've been enjoying these videos, please do hit subscribe, please do give the video a like, and please do share them. And if you're curious about the person behind these videos, then I have a second channel. It's linked in the description box. You might like it. Please do check it out. Anyway, over to the video.
All right, thank you. Your next witness.
We call Officer Melissa Sines by deposition designation.
All right.
And just so the jury is aware, for the first hour or so, what you'll hear is questioning by Ms. Heard's counsel. It will then shift to questioning by Mr. Depp's counsel.
All right.
Now, Officer Sines, you've had training on domestic violence, correct?
Correct.
Could you tell me what that consists of?
We received training in the police academy.
Anywhere else? Did you have any other type of domestic violence training other than when you were in the police academy?
Other than my experience in the field dealing with domestic violence, no, not that I can recall.
And as of May of 2016, would you agree that you had answered over 100 domestic violence calls?
I go to a lot of domestic violence calls every day.
Okay. And I direct your attention specifically to the evidence section. And it indicates witnesses present during domestic violence, statements taken, evidence collected, photos taken on there. What is your understanding of the significance of this collecting this information?
It's significant to tell a story about what happened at the domestic violence incident.
Okay. And then if we can scroll down a little bit further to additional questions, there's a series of those, including, has suspect threatened to kill you? Do they possess firearms? Have they ever attempted to smother, strangle, or suffocate you? And things of that nature. What is your understanding of why you're supposed to ask those questions?
Give you a background on the relationship and an idea of what the victim and the suspect have been through.
Okay, thank you. Just let me ask you the question, Officer Sines. You did not fill out that supplemental report when you responded on May 21, 2016 to the Broadway call, correct, with Amber Heard?
Correct, it did not meet criteria.
The question I asked was, did you fill out one of those forms?
No, I did not. I did not meet criteria.
Let's look at 12 for a moment. This is exhibit number 12. It's Office of the Chief of Police, April 9, 2002. And it's a domestic violence victims memo. And it says, purpose, the department is legislatively mandated to provide specific information to victims of domestic violence crimes. And then they go in to describe that. What is your understanding of, well, let me go a little bit further because I'm going to try to move through this a little bit quicker. So it says, to mitigate this issue, the department has begun to use the Victim Information Notification Everyday, VINE, pamphlet to accomplish not only the domestic violence information requirements under Section 13701 of the California Penal Code, but also to provide information regarding the VINE program. Did you have a copy of that pamphlet? Was that something that was given to you?
Yes.
Okay. And was that something that you typically provided then, as it says you should, to victims of domestic violence?
Yes.
what is your understanding of why you were to provide the pamphlet to the victim? You understand the question?
Yes, because it gives resources to the victims, domestic violent resources, like shelters and phone numbers to provide help.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as exhibit number 11. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do. This is the vine.
Okay, when you say vine, is this the pamphlet that
Yeah.
was being referred to? Okay. And it's your understanding that you were supposed to be giving that pamphlet to victims of domestic violence on calls, is that correct?
Correct.
Did you provide a copy of this pamphlet to Amber Heard?
I did not identify her as a victim of domestic violence.
Is that the sole reason why you did not give that to Amber Heard?
Yes, we want to give them to victims of domestic violence.
First page of exhibit number 3. It's an incident recall from specifically May 21st, 2016. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
It starts out with 5/21/16 at 20:30:58, which is 8:30:58 or almost 8:31. And it says incident initiated by such and such. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And the next thing that's communicated is Penthouse 3, PR received call from victim's friend Amber, assaulted by boyfriend. PR refused to give further. You see that?
Yes, I do.
Now, when you were out on the road, did you see that right away, or did you have to look this up later when it was you that was going to respond?
We review the calls as we're driving to the call.
Okay. Then we have at 5/21/2037, which is 8:37, a duplicate call. Do you see that?
I do.
All right, let's go down to 5/21/16. Officer Sines, can you go where I just highlighted here? And it's 20:57, which would be what time?
8:57.
All right. And it has STAT:AS. What does that mean?
There you go.
So would that be when you and Officer Haddon arrived at 849 South Broadway?
Correct.
And then it has the next entry is 5/21/2016. It has 21/22/57. So that would be 9/22.
Correct.
Okay. And it says, go ahead. I'll have you read this. What does it say after that?
Met with Vic, Chuck Lope, verified husband left Lope, Vic advised verbal.
Okay, go ahead into the next. Go ahead and go into the next page or next line. Go ahead.
Dispute and refused to give any further info. Issued business card.
Who wrote those two lines?
I don't recall.
And what did that mean to you? Those two lines that you just read.
It's a disposition of what happened at the call.
Okay, can you tell me what that means? I mean, just tell me in real person's words what those words are.
Yeah, that we met with the victim. We checked the location. The husband wasn't there, and that the victim advised us that she just had an argument and that she wasn't going to give us any further information. And because we didn't identify a crime, we issued her a business card letting her know that she could reach out to us later if she changed her mind and wanted to cooperate.
Okay. And at what point did you close this incident?
Whatever it says on the screen, let's see, 9/22/57.
Okay. And what did incident closed mean?
That we cleared from the location. We were complete. Done.
Now, once you got off the elevator at 9:04 p.m., the first thing you did was listen for some noise, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then you went around and checked out the outdoor courtyard to see if anyone was outside. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And you saw that there was a woman in the gym who was not related to the incident. Do you recall that?
Correct.
How did you know the woman was not related to the incident?
Because she seemed unfazed. She was just working out.
Did you speak with her?
No, I didn't.
Do you recall what she looked like?
I don't.
Now, did you take any notes during the entire 15 minutes from when you got off the elevator till when you got back on the elevator from the Penthouse?
I did not.
Did Officer Haddon, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Did you take pictures or record anything?
I did not.
So after you saw the woman in the gym and looked at the perimeter, you went back to the hallway and you met with what you called a white male who was generic. Do you recall using that term?
They asked me to describe him, yes.
And you said generic, correct? And what do you mean by generic?
He didn't have any identifying, I don't know, nothing that I could remember. I just remember a male white, nothing out of the ordinary.
What color was his hair?
I don't even remember now.
Did he have facial hair, a beard, or a mustache?
I don't remember.
Do you recall how tall he was, roughly?
I don't remember anything about him.
Did you ask him his name?
I don't recall.
Okay. Now, the generic white male talked with you. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And when you first saw Amber Heard, she was crying, red-eyed, and was not making eye contact with you, correct?
Correct.
And you asked her a few questions, and it was quite clear that she did not want to speak to the police. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, Amber Heard was visibly upset, so she would look down. Sometimes she would look up at you when she spoke, but was back and forth, correct?
Correct.
What was Amber Heard wearing that night?
I don't recall.
What hairstyle did Amber Heard have that night?
I don't recall.
If you saw any signs of injury on Amber Heard, or even just damage to property, would you have been duty-bound to make a report?
Correct.
Now, your recollection is that there was no damage to the flat. You searched the entire flat, and there was no damage, broken glass, or anything out of the ordinary. Would you agree?
Correct.
Did you see anything, did you observe anything out of the ordinary during this particular call that you answered at the Penthouse on May 21, 2016?
I did not.
So your best recollection is that you saw no injuries on Amber Heard, correct?
Correct.
And your best recollection is you saw no property damage, nothing in disarray, nothing out of the ordinary, correct?
Correct.
And if you had seen either of those, you would have had to file a report, correct?
Correct.
Officer Sines, let me ask you this question. So we've established that you got off the elevator on the Penthouse level at 9:04 p.m. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Oh. Do you recognize the person here?
Yes, I do. Amber Heard.
Okay. And do you see any signs of injury on Amber Heard's face in this picture?
I do not.
Is it your testimony that you do not perceive this cheek to be reflecting an injury on Amber Heard?
Correct. No injury.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at this section here above the eyelid, and now I think with the, I'm going to ask you to take a look at that eyelid. Is it your perception that that eyelid does not reflect an injury? I'm sorry, what was your answer, Officer Sines?
Correct. No injury.
Okay, and then up above on the forehead level where the redness is and it looks like there's a couple of bumps, is it your perception that does not reflect an injury?
Correct.
Officer Science, I'm going to ask you to look at what has been marked as deposition exhibit number 18, close to the time that you alighted from the elevator, correct?
Correct.
Please describe for me what you see in this photograph.
I see a striped carpet with discoloration on the right-hand side of the photo, and what I perceive as, I don't know if that's a reflection, some sort of mark.
Now, you believed and testified, in fact, that you considered the hallways to be very well lit that night, correct?
Correct.
Did you see this, these stains?
No, not that I recall.
All right. Would you agree that those are reddish stains on the right side?
Correct.
What does it look like from your experience?
Like a stain, like from a liquid.
Red wine, possibly?
It could be, yes.
Okay. But you don't recall seeing that in the hallway after you got off the elevator?
I do not.
And you did not investigate this or take any pictures or record anything about it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And why did you leave a business card?
I advised Amber Heard that she could contact us at any time if she changed her mind and decided that she wanted to speak to us and cooperate.
Could you just read this next part that you wrote on here?
Sure. Advice can call at later time if changes mind, because she was uncooperative and didn't want to speak to us.
Okay. Now, why did you say if changes mind?
Because I was giving her the opportunity to have a resource if she changed her mind.
But if Amber Heard had no injuries and there was no evidence of any type of physical property issues, disarray, breakage, etc., then why would it matter if she changed her mind?
It's a courtesy that I choose to give people when I go to calls.
Okay. Do you recognize the person in this photo?
Yes, Amber Heard.
Okay. Do you perceive there to be an injury or evidence of injury on Amber's face in this photo?
No, I do not.
What is your perception of the redness on the cheek and the eyelid and above the eyebrow?
It's consistent with observed her crying. She's fair skinned. Her face is flushed.
I'm going to ask you to look at what has been marked as exhibit number 25. Do you recognize this as Amber Heard?
Yes, I do.
Do you see a red mark on Amber Heard's cheek and above her eyelid and above her eyebrow on this picture?
Her face looks flushed. Yes, redness.
Okay. And what is your perception of what that is caused by?
Like I said earlier, it's consistent with what I see in her crying.
Right. But you don't think it's consistent with a cell phone being thrown at her?
Correct. It does not look like an injury caused from a cell phone.
Okay. And why not?
Because it's consistent with somebody crying. Her face is flushed.
This was taken on May 21st. I'm going to ask you to look at what has been marked as exhibit number 26. Do you recognize this as Amber Heard?
Yes, I do.
Officer Steins, do you see any redness on Amber Heard's cheek and above her eyelid? And we'll go with those.
I do.
And what is your perception of what the cause of those red marks?
It's consistent with her crying. Her face is flushed.
And is it fair to say that you do not believe that this reflects an injury?
Correct.
And would it also be fair to say that you would not consider it sufficient to investigate further, whether it's an injury?
There's nothing that would stop me from investigating. I would continue to ask her questions, and it's up to the victim if they want to cooperate.
But just so that we're clear here, even if the victim doesn't cooperate, if you see signs of injury, you still and I believe you testified to this, believe yourself duty-bound to write a report, correct?
Yes.
But in your mind, you don't perceive this as to be reflective of an injury. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I'm going to ask you to take a look at exhibit number 27. Again, do you recognize this as Amber Heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you see redness on the cheek of Amber Heard on this one?
Yes, I do.
All right. And then you had testified on a number of these other pictures and on this one as well that this is consistent with CALNE. Do you see any redness on Amber's other cheek?
Yes, I do.
Is it the same or similar to the redness on the cheek, on the right cheek?
Based on this photo, it looks like one cheek is redder than the other.
But you also don't see any swelling with that?
Correct.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at what has been marked as exhibit number 28. Do you recognize this as Amber Heard?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you see redness on the right cheek and above the eye?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And is it your perception that this reflects any type of, or could reflect any type of injury?
No,
Why not?
because my perception is it was consistent with her crying.
All right, let's take this down, go to 29. I'm going to ask you the same questions. Do you recognize this as Amber Heard?
Yes,
And do you see any redness in the right cheek and above the eyelid?
yes,
Okay. And is it your perception that these are not indicative of injury?
yes.
And what is your reasoning?
It's consistent with her crying.
Did you interview the woman that was sitting with Amber Heard?
I attempted to. All parties were uncooperative.
What did you say to the woman that was with Miss Heard?
I don't recall the exact words, but I introduced myself to everyone and asked if they seen what happened or know what happened, and they all refused to speak to me.
Did you ask for their names?
I recall, yes, I did ask for their names. Nobody would give me their names.
Now, that's a little unusual, isn't it?
No, it's not. A lot of people don't like us.
Well, is it that they don't like you, or is it potentially that they don't want to, with a domestic violence situation, are reluctant to press charges?
Every situation's different. Based on my training experience where I work, it's usually that people do not like us.
So did you pull out your notebook at any time while you were in the penthouse?
I did not. I had nothing to write. No one would speak to me.
Well, how did you know that when you started asking the questions that they weren't going to give an answer?
Because they just looked at me.
But wouldn't you pull out your notebook first and then ask the questions? Then write down the answers as they're giving them to you?
No, I don't put anything in my hands for officer safety issues until I'm sure that I have something to write.
I'm sorry, officer. Can you repeat your answer?
I don't put anything in my hands for officer safety reasons. If I'm not sure I'm going to write, I keep my hands free. When I ask the questions, I got no answers. Therefore, I didn't take out any notebooks or pens.
Did you have any reason to fear for your safety at the time that you were talking with Amber Heard and the woman with her?
I always fear for my safety. A potential suspect could have been in the house. So yes, my guard was not down, if that's what you're asking.
And just so everybody's aware, up until now you've been listening to questioning from Ms. Heard's counsel. At this point, I believe we're going to shift over to questioning from Mr. Depp's counsel.
What did you first do on entering the building?
We met with a security guard in the lobby who escorted us to the elevator.
Did you ask that security guard any questions about the building? Strike that. suggest that security guard any questions.
Not that I recall.
Did the security guard escort you up to the penthouse?
They gave us access through the elevator. I do not believe that they came up to the penthouse with us. I believe they just accessed the elevator.
Okay. And when you arrived at the penthouse and exited the elevator, was it just you and your partner, Mr. Haddon, Officer Haddon?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do next?
We tried to listen for any kind of sounds of domestic violence. We checked the hallways. We didn't observe anyone. We went out to a courtyard, didn't observe anyone. And based on what I was just reminded of, there was a woman in the gym who didn't seem involved, was working out, looked fine, nothing out of the ordinary. And then we responded to a door in the hallway, and I knocked and was met by a male.
Okay. Up until that point in time, from exiting the elevator to knocking on that door, did you see anything that indicated a crime?
I did not.
Up until the point where you knocked on that door, did you see or hear or witness anything indicating that there had been a domestic violence perpetrated?
I did not.
Up until you knocked on that door, did you see anything which you would have considered out of the ordinary?
I did not.
And how, in the hallway, how far were you standing from Ms. Heard?
It was close, probably like 2 to 5 feet.
Okay. And at that time, did you notice any injuries on Ms. Heard?
I did not.
Okay. Were you looking to see if she had any injuries at that time?
Yes, I was.
And so you were looking to see if Ms. Heard had any injuries, and you determined that she did not. Is that accurate?
Correct.
And was the lighting good enough in the hallway for you to make that determination?
Yes, the hallways was well lit.
Okay. And at the time, were you wearing any sort of corrective lenses?
I was not.
Although you were not wearing corrective lenses, were you prescribed corrective lenses at the time?
No, I have never worn glasses, and I'm not prescribed. I have good vision.
Okay. And at that time, did you have good vision?
Yes, I did.
At the time you were observing Ms. Heard, did you have good vision?
Yes, I did.
And did you observe any injuries at that time?
I did not.
Now, let me just back up a little bit. During the time period from when you left the elevator and when Ms. Heard came onto the hallway, at any time did the generic white male tell you that there had been an act of domestic violence?
No, he did not.
Did he tell you anything that made you think there may have been an act of domestic violence?
No, he did not.
Did he tell you anything that made you believe that a crime may have been committed?
No, he did not.
And during that time period, did you ask him what had happened or what was happening?
Yes, I did ask him, and he just refused to give me any information.
Okay. Did he tell you anything that made you believe that a crime may have been committed?
No, he did not.
And during that time period, did you ask him what had happened or what was happening?
Yes, I did ask him, and he just refused to give me any information.
Okay. Up until that point in time, did you ask Ms. Heard what happened?
Yes, I did.
And what was her response?
No response. She was uncooperative.
And Officer Stein, at that time, was Ms. Heard cooperative?
Ms. Heard was uncooperative.
Thank you. And by uncooperative, does that mean that when you asked her a question, she wouldn't say a word? Did she say something that made you think she was not cooperating?
She wouldn't say anything. After the protective sweep, I asked her again if she wanted to talk to me, if anything happened. Again, I don't remember the specific questions that I asked her, but I asked her questions to establish if there was some sort of crime, who was involved, and again, she wouldn't give me any information. I attempted to ask her friend, the other woman in the room. I even asked the males to wait in the hallway so it could just be us women in there so we could talk privately. Maybe she felt more comfortable that way. Still, they denied that there was any crime. They wouldn't answer any specific questions. So I wrote a business card. I advised her if she changed her mind that she could call us at any time and we would respond to help her out.
And do you believe that you had enough time viewing Ms. Heard to determine whether or not she had sustained any injuries?
Yes, I do.
And did you determine that she sustained any injuries?
I determined that she did not sustain any injuries.